Good morning. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's presentation, Interpersonal Communication 101, The Basics and Foundations. Before we begin today's presentation, I would like to begin with an acknowledgement that N4 is hosted at CHIO, which is located in Ottawa, Ontario. St. Paul University as well is located in Ottawa, Ontario. Ottawa is built on unceded Algonquin Anishinaabe territory, and the peoples of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation have lived on this territory for millennia, and we honor them and this land. Their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. We also honor all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples and their valuable past and present contributions to this land as well. My name is Andrew Tolmeyer. I'm N4's Education Coordinator. I will be hosting and moderating today's presentation. Alongside myself, we have my colleague and co-host, Michelle Quinlan, team lead of knowledge generation and mobilization, who will be monitoring the Q&A box today. And I'm now pleased to introduce you to today's excellent presenter, Dr. Alia Dekruri. Alia, I'm going to ask that you turn on your video as I introduce you, please. Dr. Alia Dekruri is an associate professor at the School of Social Communication at St. Paul University. She holds a PhD from Carleton University's School of Journalism and Communication. She taught at the University of Ottawa's Department of Communication and Carleton University's Department of Sociology and Anthropology, Law, and Journalism, as well as Communication. She has taught numerous courses in subjects related to media, communications, and religion. Dr. Dekruri is also the co-editor of the Global Media Journal, Canadian edition, and her publications appear in various journals, including the Journal of International Communication, Media Development, the American Journal of Islamic Social Sciences, Studies in Contemporary Culture, the Journal of Intergroup Relations, the Global Media Journal, the Journal of Culture, Language, and Representation, among many others. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Dekruri. And for just some housekeeping elements, today's session is being recorded and will be uploaded to our N4 platform within the next week or so. We'll share this with you as soon as it becomes available. Should there be any technical issues today during this webinar, we'll inform you with any details on an alternate makeup session. As well, before we begin today's event, I want to take a moment to introduce you to our platform features to help enhance your participation experience. Throughout today's session, we invite you to write your questions in our Q&A box, the Q&A window, and we know that sometimes many of you might have the same question or be interested in a particular response, so you do have the option to upvote questions. Please upvote questions you are interested in hearing the answer to, and we'll prioritize which questions we pose to the speaker first. And with that said, our presenter today has no conflicts of interest to declare. So with that, I will pass the virtual podium over to our presenter, Dr. Dekruri. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Andrew, and welcome everyone. I will share my presentation. It is a great pleasure to be today with you guys. I just want to mute all of this. And we'll be talking about interpersonal communication. Guess what? Okay. Before we start, there is a poll that you will see, and feel free to respond as I will go. Basically, what I will be asking you to share with me, what kind of communication skill that you want to learn or develop today in today's session. Just out of curiosity, because it will be interesting to see what is your expectations. To move, because I will be aware of time and I have so much to say, I will cover today these themes. So what are the importance of communication? What is the importance of communication and how interpersonal communication is related to culture? How to be a competent in our interpersonal relationship as a whole? What an effective communication looks like, and how it is related to our self-conception about ourselves. Also, how we inform our impression about the others. And, oh, sorry. I will just, sorry. Okay. Okay. I'll go back. Sorry, for some reason I changed that. Anyways, and the two final point will be about emotions. What is human emotion and how it is related to communicating feelings and how to be a good listener. And then we'll go by question and answers. So the first one, why human being communicate? Can I just, okay, share the result? Can I just close it? Can I just close it? Okay.
Yes, you can close it.
Okay, I close it. Okay, perfect. So why human being communicate? There are, according to research, there are three important reasons why people communicate, among many, but these are the important ones: physical need, identity need, and social need. So physical need. Research proved that social isolation is a major risk of contributing to a heart disease. And I know that some of the attendees are in the medical field, so I will not talk about that. You know better than me. But also, if you are dealing with seniors, you will see that the sense of being lonely is among the strong predictor of poor health for especially senior. Pregnant women under stress with no supportive relationship, they might have complication more than people who have a strong social network and so on. So that is for physical need. Identity need. We know ourselves when we deal with people. So communication is a very important tool to learn about ourselves. And so you can see if we are deprived from face-to-face interaction, from interpersonal interaction, and we have seen all of that, all of us during COVID, we are not happy. We are not seeing ourselves as normal, as healthy, and so on. And the last one is a social need. Social need is when we interact together, we feel relaxed, we have fun, we create network. So communication is a principal way to form relationship, to create relationship, to sustain relationship and maintain it. So these are the three important factor why we communicate. But we have to remember that effective communication is not a natural ability. Not everyone is born to be effective in communication, especially with each other. Some people are introverts, some people are extrovert, and that's okay. Communication also will not solve all problems. Some problems, communication is not the solution, right? The most important part that we need to remember that more communication is not always the better. I mean, I remember a few years ago, we have seen in news, someone was charged by a criminal offense of sending thousands of messages and thousands of phone calls to someone that she wants to have a relationship with. Well, that is not a good advice. More communication is not always better. Communication also is irreversible. So if you say something, you cannot take it back. Okay, you can make it less, but you cannot take it back. Channels make a whole lot of difference, and that is something that we will talk about in a while. Now, a very important piece that we need to plug in, the relationship between communication and culture. And since also this is a newcomer navigator, you are dealing with so many culture. What is culture? Culture among, definition, one of the definition is the language, values, beliefs, tradition, and custom shared among some group of people and learn among these group. And it is really important for us to understand this notion of culture and our place in the culture. So if you are in group, meaning that you are part of the culture, and if we are not part, we are out group. So if we are in group, we identify with this group, the same custom, the same language, the same belief and culture, and so on. And out group, there are those who are viewed as different. So it's very, very important for us to really understand that, because it might not be pleasant if we always perceive ourselves as out group from everyone. I will explore that more extensively in a while. Now, interpersonal communication competence, that's very important. What does competence mean in communication? Interpersonal communication competence is really defined between the balance between effective communication and appropriate communication. You might want to say, okay, I want to make a phone call to someone to tell them a piece of information. It is appropriate, absolutely. But the question would be, is it effective? If someone has a company and want to say release 100 employee, would you think that a massive email would be appropriate? It could be appropriate, but is it effective? Maybe not. That is a question of competence in communication. Very important piece in interpersonal communication. And so how to balance between appropriateness and effectiveness in interpersonal communication? Open-mindedness is the key. And here I'm calling back the culture in group and out group. These are the three important factors that we unintentionally sometimes as human beings commit when we think about culture from out group. Ethnocentrism, that is feeling that one own culture is superior to someone else. The second one is prejudice, and this is the unfairly biased and intolerance attitude toward the other who belong to the out group. So they are not part of it, they are not equal, not bad, stereotypical, which is the third one. That is the exaggerated belief and generalization about this group. And as you see, this is not a competent understanding of communication. Well, competence then leads to effective communication. So competence require mindfulness, dealing with other. You need to be open-minded. You should be cultural acceptance. Also, competence is situational, meaning that it is related to somewhat, so different people have a different competence and also different situation. You might be competent in one situation, you might not as competent in different situation. Also, competence required mindfulness, meaning shifting gears. You will change your behavior as you go. And that is the fourth one, that is competence leads to effective communication when we learn more skills. And that's, the point of today's webinar is that we know more about communication and we can gain more skills, right? Okay, what competent communication looks like? Competent interpersonal communication, particularly, it is starting from you. You need to self-monitor yourself and observe your own behavior, your own communication styles, and what you like and what you don't like. Also, it requires a large repertoire of skills. A competent interpersonal communication could be verbal communication, non-verbal communication, gather information, process a background, and so on. Adaptability. Someone can select, a competent communicator can select the right response in a different situation. So different situation, different response. So you adopt in different situation. Also, you try to analyze the situation logically, but also with empathy. That is the perspective taking that I will talk about toward the end of our webinar today when I talk about emotion. And last, the ability to perform skillfully. That is practice interpersonal communication. Well, how to become then an effective interpersonal communication person? One, do not take others for granted. That's very important. And second, do not repeat scenarios and script that doom to fail. That's logical, but also does not follow stereotype. This is a circle that is very important, and the effective communicator is guided by a skill and knowledge and working to solve problems and enhance self-worthiness. Effective communication starts with yourself, your self-conception. That is a set of perception that you hold about yourself. I know it might be a bit strange. Why we talk about myself when I'm talking about the others? Well, it really starts with you as effective communicator, that you need to know yourself. Communication and self-awareness, that's very important. Self-conception is a set of information and awareness about ourselves, and it has 4 different layers. The first one is self-conception, and this is the relative stable set of perceptions that you hold about yourself. I know I am kind. I know that I am good in talking. I know that I can listen to people. Also, the second one is the self-esteem, and that is a part of you see yourself as self-worthiness. Effective communicator cannot be, I mean, it's good to be humble, but you need to have self-esteem as well. You need to understand that you are valuable to yourself, right? And the third one is self-compassion, and that is a trap that most of us fall into, that sometimes we are very harsh to ourselves. We are very critical to ourselves. So self-compassion is the tendency to care about ourselves, to understand ourselves more than others. And the last is self-control, that is ability to change some part of you to meet a personal goal. If you are, for example, introvert, I don't want to talk, but you have to this, wonderful presentation and you want to impress someone in your workplace. Sometimes you need to self-control yourself and to change some habits in order to achieve social goal or personal goal, or social expectations. So then a question, how to communicate your self-concept? That's a good question. How can I do that? One, if having realistic expectations of yourself. Everyone know their limit, and you have to have this very, very fair. And second, have the will to change, that you want to change yourself. And third is, after you want to change, question, do you have the skill to change? What kind of skill? Can you push yourself and know that, or you will not? You know yourself better. A healthy self-concept also is flexible. Some days you find yourself, I cannot do it. That's fine. But some others day you can do that. So having a flexible self-concept is very healthy. Also, accept changes from one situation to another. You might be very good communicator interpersonally with your partner or with your family or with your friend, but in your workplace, not really. With your neighbor, not really. With other contexts, not really. So accept changing for your self-concept to one situation to another. Every one of us have different faces, different layers. Now, the next point that I want to talk about is the impression about the other. So we start to talk about ourselves, self-conception. What about the impression of the other, the people that we are dealing with? Okay, how many times you have heard this point? Put yourself in my shoes. That is the impression about the other. Impression about the other is understand why people are different. Understand why you don't agree with them in some situation, and understand also how to make sense of the world, because every one of us are different. What influence the perception of the other when you deal with people? What affect this kind of perception? The first one is access to information. The question that we need to ask ourselves: do you know everything about the people that you are dealing with? Actually, no. You will be surprised that none of us knows everything about the people that even the closest to us. If you have kids, if you have, I mean, depending on the circle, partner, family, kids, family, and so on. So the circle would be bigger. Sometimes you don't know the very, very close details and the information about that. So as soon as this information becomes available, perception change. You see someone in a party, oh, I didn't know that this person is funny, because you didn't know. Some people do not know the more about the others when they deal with them, because the access of information. You don't know the information. Also, there are physiological influence that affect your perception of the other. Our senses. If you meet someone and they put strong perfume and you have some perception about this person wears lots of makeup, this person have something that it catch your senses, it irritates you sometimes, or you like it sometimes. The age, when we grow older, our perception of the other is different. When we are tired, health tired, you are tired, you perceive people, how many, oh, well, I will not, maybe I will have that in a next pool. How many times you are in a meeting and you are tired and it's almost, time to go to home, and you have this meeting and it's like, oh, I cannot comprehend why this person is mean. This person is not mean. It is just you are tired. The most interesting part is hunger. Research proved that if you are hungry, you perceive people differently. And I mean, I know so many people of my friends, you don't talk with them if they are hungry. And since we are now in Ramadan, I am not hungry. I'm fasting, but I'm not hungry. So I'm happy. Don't worry. What other influence? Another interesting influence of what is influence you to perceive people is social aspect. Sex and gender is one factor. So that is the differences, exist between different gender and sex roles, stereotypical, they affect us when we deal with people, right? Also, occupational role. If you have kind of work that govern your view to that work. For example, if someone is a lawyer, you have a perception of this person as super serious and so on. Someone is a nurse, you say, oh, this person is compassion, is listening, and so on. So you have some perception of the people based on the roles that they are doing in their life. Also, relational roles, that is, what is the role that they are doing in relation to you. So, for example, the perception about the person if they are related to you, so a partner will be amazing. Someone will say that's an awful, boss. We'll say, no, that is not, he or she is, wonderful. Why? Because they have a relational role to you and not to the person that they are dealing with. So social influence affect the way that we perceive others. That's very important in understanding interaction. So what are the tendencies? What are the mistakes that we are doing when we deal with others? We make snap judgment without knowledge. That's fact. We are human being. And also we cling to first impression. When we see someone for the first time, we say, oh, this person is good, this person is bad, and so on, based on a single characteristic and not knowing everything about the person that you are dealing with. And also, we have to admit that we judge ourselves very generously and very charitably and very positively than other people. We always give ourselves excuse, but not give others the same. And when I say we are human beings, by the way, we are influenced by the obvious, and we don't dig to know more about the details unless someone is beyond our social circle, maybe so attached to us. So in our family, for example, this way we care more about that. Sometimes also we assume that people are similar to us, which might be problematic. If you go, for example, in a work function and someone eats specific food and you assume that everyone likes that, well, that's not the case. If you like this movie, for example, this show, that does not mean that everyone likes that. So anyway, these are the common tendency that we do in perceiving others. Now, one of my favorite topics, emotions. Emotion in interpersonal communication and the ability to communicate feelings. I'm not checking the chat, so I'm hoping, so Andrew, if there are something that you need to tell me, just please tell me. Okay. Okay, emotion and the ability to communicate. So what are emotions? Emotion consists of three different parts. Again, I will be very brief because it's just dry kind of theory, but that's okay. It starts with physiological changes. That is how our body change when we have strong emotion. Let's say if you are in a meeting and you are super angry, you would just, your muscles start to tension, you have start to have a high blood pressure. If you are anxious in a meeting, angry or anxious or scared, all of these physiological changes, so emotion affect us on our body, and also cognitively. So how our mind is so attached to our body. So what our mind plays, it plays a very important roles. So our mind label people, oh, this person is nice, I will smile. This person is mean, I will, frown, and so on. So our mind play in the emotion part. And then we have the outward expression, the expression of the feeling. So if you are, scared, if you are sometimes angry, how many times you are in a situation, you find someone angry without even talking, their face was so red. So that's an expression of anger. And sometimes someone non-verbally, shy or have a blush. That's, being a gesture that this person is, for example, shy. What influence expressing our emotion? What makes us expressing or not our emotion as human beings? Especially, I'm talking about interpersonal setting. So being the circle of interpersonal setting is between someone close to you, someone in your circle, like friends, neighbors, family, and then wider one, workplace, and society at large. The first one is your personality. Some people are born, are their default shift, they are not expressing their emotion. So your personality impose on you whether or not you express your emotion. Second one is culture. The position of culture is very important. Research proved that culture from the East, they tend the whole East, and they tend to be more reserved in expressing emotion versus I apologize, the opposite. The Western tradition tend to be reserved in expressing the emotion versus the Eastern tradition. The Eastern tradition, I mean, talking about Western, I mean North America, Europe. Again, research proved that the Eastern is all the East. They tend to be more within community. They tend to express that based on their own culture, right? The third one is the biological sex and gender. So, predictor could be that some sex would be more emotion in expressing their feeling emotional than other person and or other individual and so on. And research proved that women, and there is nothing wrong with that, women tend to be more emotional than men in some cases. Also social roles. Sometimes if you occupy a role in society, you lose or you cannot show as much emotion. And think about many health professionals who work in the emergency department or any critical care. Imagine if they are expressing their actual emotion every time, they cannot function. So social role imply on us whether or not to express our emotion. Also fear of self-disclosure. Sometimes if you are, say, a child and you have a parent, or employee and you have a boss, sometimes if you express your actual emotion, you might be, in trouble. So you hide this emotion from the people around you. How to express your emotion effectively then? And I'm aware of time, so I will go a bit fast. One, recognize your feelings. Effectively oriented people are more aware of their own emotion than with low affective oriented. So if you are an affected, like again, a very emotional person in other way, you can recognize, you can detect the person feeling right away. So recognizing the feeling. Second, choose the best language. Many communicators use emotionally what we call emotion counterfeit statement when trying to express feeling. If you want to say something, select the appropriate language to pass on your true feeling and not to hide it. And that's okay to share multiple feeling. In some situation in our life, we often feel several emotion, but the problem is we communicate the worst of it. We communicate the most negative one. If you like your partner, if you want to maintain the relationship and they didn't take the garbage outside, it's like every time you say that, I hate you. You don't hate the person. You are upset, you are overwhelmed, but you say, I am overwhelmed. So it's okay to share multiple emotion, but make sure that you do not share the worst of it. Also recognize the difference between feeling and acting. You might be nervous about a meeting or an interview that you will be having, but if you act on this fear, that's not good. So you need to recognize the difference between feeling an emotion and acting in an emotion. Also, it's very important especially in the interpersonal close setting relationship, to accept the responsibility of your feeling. They use the language of I instead of you. This is very important to maintain relationship. Instead of, screaming at someone, you are making me angry every time, versus I feel angry. Take responsibility of your feeling, and that's absolutely okay. The final one is choose the best timing and place to express your feeling. Sometimes we select, an awkward position, an awkward environment, and we, share a feeling that will not be stable, for example. So wait until you are your thought is very carefully thought of, and you are aware of your feeling, and then express it. In this position, you will be heard. Okay, now I have another question for you guys. That is, respond to the poll that will be shared with you now. And it is, do you think that you are a good listener or not? So just say yes or no in that poll. I will just, okay. Good, good, good. Wow, okay. Very good. Thank you very much. I will just close it. I will take the poll. Okay, I will close it this way. I will not see. Anyway, listening. Research suggests that if any one of us as human being were to pick one skill that you want to improve, one skill that you want to develop and maintain, your best choice is improving your communication skills. Sorry, your listening skills in interpersonal setting. So listening skills are so critical in workplace, in romantic relationship, in social relationship, in workplace. Listening is very important. So I will take you very quickly. And again, I'm aware of the timing here. Good, I'm good in timing. There is a difference between hearing and listening. And unfortunately, most of us think that hearing is the same as listening. Hearing is really how our body reacts. So hearing is our ears, eardrums receive some waves of voices, or I don't know, waves, and go to the eardrum. It is interpreted by our brain in some way. I'm hoping no doctors are here, because I will be in real trouble because I am not good in science. But anyway, hearing is really, physiological process. Listening is something very different. Listening is a process of intentional receiving and interpreting and responding to spoken and non-verbal messages. Even with some people do not speak, by gesture, you can respond to them. So listening is very, very important. I have to admit that every time I teach I teach now interpersonal communication for my students, and I share this story on and on. I have to admit, but after, teaching this, my own kids like, Mama, you are teaching listening skills and you are not a good listener. And they're like, oh, really? So I even realized that sometimes I'm not a good listener. I will show you how. So there is what we call mindless versus mindful listening. Mindless listening is occur when you react with people automatically, routinely, without any mental investment. You are listening. But mindful listening is different. Mindful listening involves caring about this person, giving them attention, and responding to the messages that you are receiving. And that's very important in maintaining relationship, right? What is the listening style? We have 4 different listening styles. One is task-oriented listening, and this is you are only concerned about the efficiency of the job. I need to get the job done. So I listen to your instruction, I'll go do it. There is something called relational listening, and this is relational listening concerned about building this emotional closeness with the others. That's building relationships. And you might have also the analytical listening. The analytical listening attend to all aspects of the messages before they come to a judgment. So they analytically, analyzing it. And the last one is the critical listeners. The critical listeners are they evaluate the message, the quality of the message, the accuracy, the consistency, the language, and so on. So there are different types. What are the challenges of listening then? The challenging of listening that we as human beings, we have overload of information. Every one of us come to listen to the people around us. We have personal concern. Everyone has so many things going in their life. And also, human beings speak 100 to 140 words per minute. Imagine that is so much. Also, if you add on that, there are noises. While you are listening to someone, you might have your phone on, you might have, thinking about things and internally or external, like noise. Okay. So these are the challenge of listening. So type of listening, then you might be this type of listening. You might be, you don't have but there are type of pseudo listening. And pseudo listening is a polite imitation of listening and to mask inattention. That is what my kids told me, that yeah, I look like I listen to you, but I'm not listening. My mind is somewhere. If you see my face, you'll think I'm listening to you, but I'm not. Stage hodging is that you are interested only in expressing one's own idea and not caring about what the other person is saying. You are listening just to, jump in and take one word and use it. Selective listening is that you are responding only to one part of the people, someone remark, someone interesting part, or rejecting the people ideas, the person who's talking. That is selective listening. And sometimes you have insulated listening, that is failing to hear or acknowledge certain topic when they are raised. For example, there are some taboos in your life, or there are some topics that you will like, oh, I am not listening. So you are present, but you are insulating your ears and your mind and your heart to that type of topics. And the last one is defensive listening, and this is taking innocent comments really as personal attacks. Okay, I'm very good in timing, very good. That's why I want to share with you this very interesting character. This is the Chinese character to make up to the verb meaning of to listen. It's very interesting. I always share that with my students. So to listen to someone is significant to the skills of listening within an interpersonal communication setting. It is not only your ear, but it's your ears, your eyes, your heart, and your undivided attention. I really like it because it talks a lot about what the skill needed in that context. Now, the last part is how to respond to listening. Now, you have seen this mode of listening, but how to respond to this mode of listening? One, you can be a silent listener, and these you can stay attentive, but not verbally responsive without saying anything. And this could be a very good approach, an effective one, if you don't want to encourage the speaker if you don't want to encourage the speaker to keep talking, if you listen to other idea on collaborative tasks, or to help others to solve their problem. I see that, as a psychotherapist, for example, to be a silent listener, you are attentively listening. You are not pseudo listening. You are letting them talk because you want them to talk. Second, you can be a questioning listener. Why you question? You might want to clarify things. For example, you want to ask people about to ask them, did I get your feeling right? You want to encourage them to elaborate, to encourage them to discovery, to gather more information or more details. Did I get it right? Can you ask more this? Can you elaborate on this? And so on. Also, you can be a paraphrasing listeners. So this type of paraphrasing is all of these are very effective, by the way, because it means that you have listened and you want to be effective in listening. So type of paraphrasing that you change the wording of a speaker, that you, for example, offer them an example of what you think they mean when they talk, or you want to describe the underlying theme of their remark by saying, did I get it right when you are saying that? Or do you mean this, by the way? So this way you are paraphrasing them. Also, you can be an empathizing listeners. And empathizing listener definitely is not denying the other people to have the right feeling and not underestimating the significance of the situation. Don't underestimate their feeling in that situation. And it is not about focusing on yourself. Empathizing is put yourself in someone else's shoes. It is very important form of listening, and I see lots of healthcare professionals are doing this very effectively. The last part is that you can be a supportive listeners, and that is when you reveal your solidarity with the speaker in one situation. That is, for example, when you agree with them, say, yeah, you are right, or offer help, saying, that's fantastic. Do you want me to help you? Or you say, good job, you praise them, or you reassure them that, oh, I think you took the right choice, or I think you say the proper answer, and so on. Okay, the last part, and I have 2 minutes, that's great. The last part is that you can be an advising listener, but it is very important to consider some questions before you give them or offer someone advice. First, is the advice even needed? The person, did they ask you for advice, or you are just voluntarily giving it? Some people are so annoyed of, someone is, have a problem and come to share that with you, and you are a very good listener. But instead of listening to them empathetically, you just give them advice. Don't give advice unless they are needed. Also, it is wanted. The other person wanted, did they ask for advice or just voluntarily did that? So there are some situations, I mean, there is a difference between the advice is needed and the advice is wanted. Is the situation crucial? Let's say there are some issues of, crucial domestic abuse, or there are some trauma, or there are some issue here. Is advice is needed? Really? Sometimes it is. You feel that someone does not know, for example, a legal account. So you might want to give them an advice, but the advice wanted, is a person want the advice or not? Also, is the advice giving in the right sequence? So it is in the right moment or not? Is the advice coming from an expert? If the person need an advice, let's say legal advice, and you don't possess any legal, qualifications, what giving an advice as a listener would not be effective at all. Is the advisor also a close or a trusted person? That's important, because some random people, for example, some not so close, like let's say someone who just worked with you the first day and just giving you an advice about something so intimate, that's not effective. Is the advice offered in a sensitive manner, like safe saving manner? It's not if you find someone, let's say you are a scent-free environment in your work and you have someone like first day in the work and they wear tons of perfume on, and you want to tell them that is not appropriate in that place. You should not be giving the advice in front of everyone and so on, but you need to be sensitive in that way. And I think the last part is which style you use in listening response. You need to consider the situation, the other person that you are dealing with, yourself. That is the first point that we talked about today. Yourself, your point of strength, your point of weakness, and whether you are capable of doing this or not whenever you are listening. Okay. Now, the last question before I move, that is after the session today, I'm done, and it's 1:45. So I think Andrew and Michelle will give me a sticker because it is exactly 40. That's perfect. So if you can please share your feedback. What is the skill that you find super useful today after attending this session of interpersonal communication? Yeah, and I thank you very much for listening to me.
Oh yeah,
To
thank
you,
you.
Andrew.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation today, Alia. You've given a great scope of the interpersonal communication in such a short amount of time. All the various scopes, including the elements of active listening and effective listening. So excellent work. We've had a few questions come in. One of them was with regards to um, influence and perception in communication. Jose asks, with respect to individuals, non-binary individuals, how would that affect with regards to perception, with regards to with their gender influence?
Absolutely. Thank you for that. It is one of the interesting topic indeed, and related to the, I would say it is interesting because it relates to the in-group and out-group, right? If you are in-group, you will find yourself as part of, and you think about this positively, and if you are out group, you think about that negatively. Okay, so it is important whenever people deal interpersonally, they do not think of, as Jose mentioned, as the sex and gender as out group, because you will instantly look at that from a negative perspective, which is super non-productive in interpersonal setting. It is one of the things that people unintentionally do it. It is um, what they say, it is unintentional sometimes, in a situation, again, depending on the situation. I cannot talk about the much details about that because it's all boiled out to what exactly the situation is. But the most important effective part in an interpersonal setting, that the communicator need to be all inclusive. Do not take a side and not think about yourself from a prejudice perspective, from a stereotypical perspective, and all of the different criteria of the negative kind of competence in communication. I don't know if this answered the question or not. I just have one slide on that, but I can definitely elaborate and give more information about that. There are lots of research about that, but again, for the sake of timing, I just brief it out.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you for that response. Can you suggest some ways we can all improve our emotional vocabulary to express our feelings to others and to ourselves? I feel knowing to describe what we are feeling is very important, and a lack of it will lead to outbursts and inappropriate reactions.
Well, that is very tough question, because emotion is very personal. Emotion related to the person. Oh, I'm just sorry. I'm just
I'm
looking.
just ending the poll.
Okay.
Sorry.
So no, that's okay. I will just close it from my end. Emotion usually it's related to the personality, and as I mentioned, related to the culture, the social role, and the different dynamics of the relationship that you are, living in. So self-disclosure in emotion, it is related to all of these aspects and cannot be in focus on one of this. But the most important part, I think, for disclosing emotion effectively is you need to recognize your feeling and to choose the best language to share that feeling, and also to select I think the timing also is very important criteria, because most of the time we share feelings when we are angry in the lowest negative stage of our feeling. And so it is, as I mentioned, it's counterfeit, it's not real. Yeah. Does this answer the question, or?
Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you for that. One that came to my mind when you were presenting was what elements of effective communication do you feel healthcare and settlement workers should focus upon when they are working with newcomers?
Yes, yes, yes. I think that's it's a very good question, actually, Andrew. And I think the most important aspect when we deal with newcomers, I was an immigrant myself, and one of the very important things is to have the empathy. Empathy is very, very important in this stage of transition between one country to another country, have so much, and also the culture shock and so on. So I think for professionals who are dealing with especially settlement workers and those people with new immigrants and so on, they need to have empathy, number one, and two, to focus on listening. Sometimes people, this is what I found, some people are super stressed and super charged with lots of emotion and just need to vent out. So if you just go silent listening at one time, just let them listen, let them talk. And I think this is, charging, venting out all of the charged feeling that they have, and hence they can think about more of, analytical listening, and guiding them to more of the resources that they have and so on, because in that way they will go away from the negative tone of emotion. Does it make sense?
Yes, yes, of course. Thank you for that. We have so many questions to get through, and for those that we don't get a chance to address, we will follow up with Alia after the
Mhm.
presentation. One question that came in was: is there a guide or tool developed based on common mistakes of newcomers? Uh, sorry, based on common miscommunication and mistakes that newcomers may make to Canada, and how to help them communicate effectively.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's one of the things that I have done myself. I got a grant 2 years ago from SHIRC, the Social Science and Research Council of Canada, to help a newcomer in settlement. And part of what I did actually is same like webinar, but in person, is to give them hands-on tools for, and particularly I chunk it up to interpersonal setting for spouse and between family, because a big problem that happened, again, as same like us, we start inside out, self-conception, and then others. It starts with this problem. So for newcomers, there are problems sometimes between themselves and with their family, and they cannot talk about it. So interpersonal communication with the family, how to manage anger when disappointment, different psychological effect of, change of culture and change of setting, hopes, and finding jobs, and so establishing a routine and a new life, it is so overwhelming. So I chunk it up and I give different workshop to different segment of people. Some of them, they don't know the language, so we translate the language for them. So what language you are doing? So most of this, the session that I did it in English and Arabic, and so we translate that. I would be happy to share with Andrew and with everyone on the platform the result of this research. And also I did make a nice website of different resources that might be useful for everyone. It will be public, so that would be also good for newcomer um, to guide them in their emotion.
Thank you. Thank you. How do you effectively communicate when someone is clearly relaying misinformation as bias?
Well, I have to say I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert in everything, but my own humble thing is, I flag that when I ask about the different modes of listening, and listening is the second one is you could be a questioning listeners, meaning that if you, for example, you find someone who is misinformed about anything, and let's say took something that is not truthful or not factual. I think the best approach will be to be a questioning listener, meaning that to clarify meaning, to say, did I get it right? Can you elaborate on that? Encourage them to discover, encourage them to gather information. And let's say if, for example, this person does not know, maybe guide them to know about that. So in a gentle manner, to respond to them saying, well, this is not factual. Maybe it would be good to share with them the information itself. This way, you will flag that this information that you have is not true, and you are not going to endorse that, but you are politely guiding them to a more positive turn to effectively communicate, I think.
Thank you. That's excellent. And with that, I think that comes to the end of our presentation. And thank you so very much, Alia, for taking time to participate in today's discussion. And I'm going to just share my screen here. And with that said, once again, thank you so much, Alia, for being able to present on interpersonal communication today and taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here to present this webinar. And many thanks to you, the audience, for joining with us and engaging with us today. You're welcome to join us again for any of our upcoming events as well, both next week and into April. And if you missed any part of today's presentation or would like to watch this session again, we will be posting this recording to the N4 platform within the next week or so. We want to continue this dialogue that we've started, so we will be working with Alia to move all the questions that haven't had a chance to be answered to our online moderated discussion forum known as the Meeting Place on the N4 website. And we've invited Alia once again to present there. We've also curated several resources from today's session, and we'll work with Alia to bring together some other effective resources to share with the on-demand version of this presentation. So if you haven't yet, please sign up to newcomernavigation.ca for all our resources and learning opportunities. As well, following this session, you'll be invited to complete a brief survey to share your feedback with N4, and we very much value your responses to these surveys, as it will help us continuously improve and seed out any new webinar content based off of the interests that our N4 members are discussing and wanting more information about. Along with that, we have our ITP and IN pathways available to those that are internationally educated healthcare professionals. Many different pathways to practice in Canada for physicians and nurses trained abroad. Feel free to check them out at newcomernavigation.ca/ITP-pathways or newcomernavigation.ca/IEN pathways for physicians and nurses, respectively. And finally, with that, feel free to check out our N4 mobile app available on Apple and Android devices by going to the QR code here or checking it out at newcomernavigation.ca/iOS and /Android. And before we go, are there any final thoughts to share, Alia, with our audience?
Thank you very much, Andrew. I think it's very interesting session. As usual, I like to engage with a newcomer, and it has been a pleasure to teach some of the courses on interpersonal communication through Newcomer Navigator. But I mean, what I will be doing is I will be pulling some of the resources, as you mentioned, to elaborate on the question that was answered on spot, and also some of the question that I didn't have a chance to answer, to share with the attendees on the platform. But I mean, if you can just have one thing, if one thing, again, I will highlight today, the interpersonal communication start with you, self-conception, self-esteem, be kind to yourself. And if you would ever want to select one skill that you want to always enhance, be like me. I listen to my kids and I'm trying to be a good listener. So saying, Mama, you teach listening and you don't listen. So now I am aware of myself. I'm kind to myself, but also I acknowledge there are some flaws that need to be attended to, because I do care about the circle of the people that I deal with. I mean, the closest one up until the larger audience, say my worker, my coworker, my colleagues, my students, and so on. So I mean, that is one thing that I maybe share with everyone. So be a good listener. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Alia. Thank you again. And thank you, audience, for joining with us. And we hope that you can join us at a future N4 event. Stay safe and stay well, everybody.